Good morning, students. I hope so. Everyone is good and everyone is fine. So, we have finished off with this chapter, Globalization and the Indian Economy, which is from the subject Economics. So, today we are going to discuss all the NCERT exercise, question and answer solution, which you have to do in your main class work notebook. So basically this is going to be your classwork and you have to do while I am just going to speak the answers here. So we are going to discuss each and every question here and you just have to understand those questions and you have to write it down in your notebook. That's it. So most probably this is going to be the last lecture for this particular chapter, and after this we are not going to move forward with another chapter. We are going to revise again the second term chapters that we have finished off today. So in the homework I will let you know what the things that you have to do, as we have done the assignment questions already from this chapter, so we are not going to do that again. I will let you know what the homework is all about in the end you will got to know. Okay, so let's get started with the lecture. Please be ready with your book, your classwork notebook and one pen in your hand. These are the things that you should know and you should have. So we can start off with the lecture now. So this is the NCERT exercise question and answer solution. So we are going to take question one by one and I will let you know which questions that you have to do in your main classwork notebook and which you have to do in your book. So from question number 1 you have to start in your notebook only, and the question that you have, please write down first. The question is, what do you understand by globalization? Explain in your own words. So here you have to explain what does globalization means, and you can tell in your own words also, but it should be related to the concept only. So I am telling you the answers that you can write it down also. So the first point that you can write down in this particular answer is that globalization is the kind of a process of interaction and integration among the people, companies and governments of different nations. That's a kind of a process that driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. So in simple words you can write these things, that globalization is a kind of a process which is of interaction and integration, where there are collaboration of different people, companies and government of different nations. It's a kind of a process that is driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. So under globalization, the countries that hitherto closed to trade and foreign investments open up their economics and go global. The result is increasing interconnectedness and integration of the economics of the world. So basically here in this particular point they are saying that the globalization of the countries see that whichever trading system they are hitting into, or basically getting close to them in terms of trade or in terms of foreign investment, which is open up to them in a global term. In global term means to the entire world, not just situated to one nation only or in their own country only. It is helping them to trade and to do their foreign investment and help in improving their economic level through global level. Now the result is this, in this particular case, is increasing in interconnectedness and integration of the economics of the entire world altogether by the help of globalization. Next point that you can add on here is, under globalization, more and more goods and services, investments and technology are moving between countries. So basically under globalization, more and more goods and services are basically like traveling from one place to another, and investments and technology, these all the things are basically moving between the countries. In addition to that, goods, services, investments, and technology. There is the movement of people who move from one country to another in search of better income, better jobs, or better education. So as a whole, in addition to all these things like goods, services, investments, and technology, there is a kind of a movement of people who move from one country to another in search of better income, better jobs, or better education. So that's what it for question number 1. You can start writing question number 2. The question is, what was the reason for putting barriers to foreign trade and foreign investment by the Indian government? Why did it wish to remove these barriers? So the answer, the particular question is saying first of all that you have to tell what are the reasons of putting these barriers to the foreign trade and investment by the Indian government, and why did it wish to remove these barriers after that. So the answer to this is, first we are going to write this answer in parts. So firstly we are going to answer the first part, and then we are going to answer the second part. So the first answer of first part here is, the government had put restrictions on the import of goods to protect domestic producers from foreign competition, because industries were coming up in the 1950s and 1960s, and competition from imports at that stage would not have allowed these industries to come up. So basically the main intention why they have put restrictions on the import duties, basically the government had put restrictions on the import of goods basically to protect our own domestic producers from this foreign competition. Basically they were not set up, they were just coming up at that point of time, and they were not developed enough at the time of 1950s and 60s. So if the competition would come up, they wouldn't be able to develop that at that particular stage. So thus the government allowed the imports of only the essential items such as machinery, fertilizers, and petroleum at that time. So the government at that time thought that they should allow only the essential things, so that the other industries could just come up to a stage where they can like increase their own production. So that's why they have allowed only the essential items such as machinery, fertilizers, and petroleum, and these restrictions help them to attain technological capability within the country. Now the second part, the answer here is, starting around 1991, the government wished to remove the barriers due to reasons as mentioned below. So the second part answer you can write down in points here, that why they have removed the barriers. There are certain reasons, so you can write those reasons in points. Firstly, the India had attained technology capability. So basically at that time India has attained technological capability. Then the government decided that the time had come for Indian producers to compete with producers around the globe. So at that time the government thought that it's the kind of a right time for the Indian producers to compete with producers around the globe, and it felt that competition would improve the performance of producers within the country, since they would have to improve their quality. So they thought that if they will get the competition, it can improve the performance of the producers that are there within the country, and since that can also improve the quality of their products. So there would be an unrestricted exchange of capital, technology, and experience between India and other countries of the world. Thus, the barriers to foreign trade and foreign investment were removed. Now goods could be imported and exported easily, and the government reduced taxes on imported goods and encouraged investors from abroad to invest in India. So that's why the barriers to foreign trade and foreign investment were removed at that time, and after that goods could be imported and exported easily, and the government have also reduced the taxes on import goods, and they have encouraged the investors from abroad to invest in India very easily. Now question number 3, here they are asking, how would flexibility in labor laws help companies? They are saying that if there will be flexibility in labor law, how this particular thing can help in companies. So the answer of this is flexibility in labor laws will help companies in being competitive and progressive. By easing up on labor laws, company heads can negotiate wages and terminate employment depending on market conditions. This will lead to an increase in the company's competitiveness. Basically, the flexibility, if there will be in labor law, they can help the companies to be more competitive and progressive. Like by easing up the labor law, the companies can negotiate the wages as per their terms, and the employment rate also can be increased or decreased on their terms. So it is the benefit of the companies only, not the laborers here. So it depends on the market condition also, that it is rising or it is below the average. So this can also lead to the increase in the company's competitiveness also, where if there will be less labor, so they are going to give them less wages and the profit would be on more, and there will be the competitiveness that they can get from the market, it will be more. Now question number 4. What are the various ways in which MNCs set up or control the production in other countries? So what are the various ways in which these MNCs are majorly set up or they can control or the production in other countries? Basically, these MNCs are set up or control and the production in other countries in the following ways. So there are certain ways, we are going to discuss that. So MNCs set up production on the basis of the following factors. So what are the basic factors where they can set up their production? First of all, that should be closeness to the place, to the markets. So wherever they are going to set up these things, it should be nearby to their markets. So they find certain regions where or the place which is close to the market. So closeness of a place to the market. Then availability of skilled and unskilled labor at low cost. So another main point here is that there should be availability of skilled and unskilled labor at some low cost that they can get. Then availability of other factors of production like raw material and etc. So they need raw material at a cheaper rate. So they find certain regions where there will be availability of the factors of production like raw materials, the place they are going to put up their industry and so on. Then the government's favorable policies. So they must be getting the government's favorable policies in their hand to deduct the cost of production. Then after assuring above the above conditions that we have just discussed, MNCs set up factories and offices for production. So basically, after assuring above condition, MNCs set up factories and offices for production. They buy assets such as land, buildings, machines and other equipment. At times, these MNCs set up production jointly with these local companies because the local company has knowledge of the local business conditions. Moreover, the domestic company has an established framework of business. These MNCs provide money and latest technology for production, and these MNCs buy local companies to expand the production. These MNCs with huge wealth can quite easily do so. Some MNCs start as an independent entity right from the beginning, while some of the MNCs produce entirely for the local markets. Many others produce for the exports market. So basically, in all these points, we are saying that first of all, they have to set up the factories and offices production. They buy the assets. Then after that, the MNC set up production with the hand of local companies, joining hand with the local companies, and these local companies has certain knowledge about the market conditions of their own areas. Then moreover, the domestic companies establish the framework of their businesses. They provide money and in against of that, these MNC provide them money and latest technology for production. They buy these local companies to expand the production, and these MNC with huge wealth was quite easy to do so. So some MNCs have such an independent identity right from the beginning, and some of the MNCs produce entirely for the local market. Many other produce for the export markets also. Now after that you have to write, it's a very big question, this is related to that question only, that these MNCs in developed countries place orders for production with small producers of developing countries for various products such as garments, footwear. These products are supplied to the MNCs, which sell them under their own brand names to the customers, and the MNCs decide then their price, quality, delivery and labor conditions from these distinct producers. Thus, we see that there are a variety of ways in which these MNCs are spreading their production and interacting with local producers in various countries across the globe, and as a result, the production in these widely dispersed locations is getting interlinked. Now the next question is, why do these developed countries want developing countries to liberalize their trade and investment? What do you think should be developing countries demand in return? So these developed countries basically want developing countries to liberalize their trade and investment, because then the MNCs belonging to the developed countries can set up factories in less expensive developing nations, and thereby they can increase the profits with lower manufacturing costs and the same sale price. So basically why these developing countries want these developing countries to liberalize their trade and investment, the main reason is their own profit, that these MNCs belonging to these developed countries can set up factories in these very less expensive developing nations, and thereby they can increase the profits with lower manufacturing costs and the same sale price. In my opinion, the developing countries should demand in return for some manners of protection of domestic producers against competition from imports. Also, charges should be leveled on MNCs looking to set pace in developing nations. So in my opinion, how we can protect our own domestic workers and our domestic industries or companies. Basically what the developing countries can do, they can put up their own demands in return, and they can put some manners of protection for these domestic producers against the competition from the imports that they are getting, and they can also charge a kind of a level up, not on a like which they think that's quite cheap, but in our sense it is quite huge what we actually deserve. Some standard kind of a charge we can like put on by these MNCs who are looking to set up their main base in these developing nations. Now question number 6, the impact of globalization has not been uniform. Explain the statement. So here they are asking what is the major impact of globalization, where they are asking it is not uniform. So obviously every situation has the positive effects and the negative impact. So we are going to discuss both the impact here in this particular question, the positive impact and the negative impact of globalization. So the answer here is the impact of globalization has not been uniform as explained below. So basically we are going to discuss first positive impact. Globalization has resulted in more choices for the consumers, who now get better quality at lower prices than several products. Basically the first thing is that the globalization has resulted in more choices for the consumers and better quality at a lower prices than they have thought for several products. Then this has improved the standard of living of people, particularly living in urban areas. So basically this has improved the standard of living of people, and particularly basically who are living in the urban areas. Then MNCs has increased their investment in developing countries like India in industries such as cell phones, automobiles, electronics, soft drinks, etc. As a result of it, new jobs has been created in developing countries. Now, some local companies that supply raw material to MNCs have also benefited. Some local companies in countries like India have been able to invest in newer technology and production method. They are successful in rising their production standards, and globalization has enabled some large companies also, such as Tata Motors, Infosys, to emerge as multinational companies. Now, these companies also are providing services, particularly in the field of information and communication technology, have also benefited by globalization. Similar is the case in services like data entry, accounting, administrative tasks, and engineering. Now, the negative impact of the globalization here is, which is harmful for the market. First, creation of special economic zones has disturbed the lives of people who are displaced, such as tribals. So basically, basically the government has made these special economic zones for showing the better life or better standard of living for certain people, but it has displaced certain lives of people who are basically living in remote areas or tribes. So basically, sometimes to produce more electricity, dams are constructed and their land is submerged and the people are left without any job. Then flexibility in labor laws. Basically, flexibility in labor laws is allowed by the government to attract foreign investment, and this has resulted in worsening the condition of workers because they are appointed on a temporary basis to avoid payment of provident fund and other facilities. No overtime is paid for extra hours of work and the workers are paid low wages. Then apart from that, effects on small producers has a very big impact. Like this globalization has hit the small producers because they are unable to compete with MNCs or the big producers or manufacturers. Several units have been shut down, rendering many workers jobless, and in India, small industries which employ about 20 million workers have been hit adversely. From above description, it is clear that the impact of globalization has not been uniform and it has positive as well as negative impact both. Now the next question is, how has liberalization of trade and investment policies helped the globalization process? So basically, the liberalization of trade and investment policies has helped the globalization process by making foreign trade and investment easier. Earlier, several developing countries had placed barriers and restrictions on imports and investments from abroad to protect domestic production. However, to improve the quality of domestic goods, these countries have removed the barriers. Thus, liberalization has led to a further spread of globalization because now businesses are allowed to make their own decisions on imports and exports, and this has led to a deeper integration of national economics into one conglomerate role. So basically, we are not taking question number 8, 9 and 10 here. How does foreign trade lead to integration of market across the countries? Because we have already done this. Then globalization will continue in the future. Can you imagine with the world would be like 20 years from now? Give reasons. We are not doing this question also. We are straight away coming to question number 10 that you have to do. Okay. The two questions you can skip, question number 8 and 9. You don't have to do it in your classroom notebook. Okay. We are straight away coming to question number 10 that you have to do. Supposing you find two people arguing. One is saying globalization has hurt our country's development and the other is telling globalization is helping India develop. How would you respond to these organizations? So both the arguments have some truth as mentioned below. So globalization has helped India develop as mentioned below. How that many MNCs are making an investment in India in different sectors like insurance, banking and food processing. Then these investments have benefited people in a number of ways which has resulted in the development of the country. Now people have choices, they can buy anything of their choice, costly or cheap. People are getting jobs with a handsome salary. The living standard of people has increased. Many projects are going on with the help of foreign investment, and different states are making efforts to attract the foreign companies to make an investment in their states and are successful in their mission. The globalization, however, has hurt the country's development as mentioned below. For a large number of small producers, globalization has posed many challenges like batteries, capacitors, plastics, toys, tires, dairy products and vegetable oil industries have been hit badly due to this competition. Many small units have been shut down, rendering many workers jobless. As the small industries in India employ the largest number of workers in the country, next only to agriculture, it has hurt the development. Thus, both arguments have some truth in them. However, if steps are taken to have a fair globalization, then the adverse effect may be minimized and may not hurt the country's development. Now answer number 11, this you have to do in your book only, you don't have to do in your classwork notebook. So you can fill in the blanks. So we are starting, I am just going to read the paragraph and the bolded words are the one you have to fill. So these Indian buyers have a great choice of goods than they did 2 decades back. This is closely associated with the process of globalization. Markets in India are selling goods produced in many other countries. This means there is increasing trade with other countries. Moreover, the rising number of brands that we see in the markets might be produced by MNCs in India, and these MNCs are investing in India because of cheaper production of cost, while consumers have more choices in the market, and the effect of rising demand and purchasing power has meant greater competition among the producers. Now question number 12, I am just telling the sequence, you can write it down. The sequence for match the following is 5, 1, 4, 3, 2. So this is a sequence you have to do in your book only. Then question number 13, choose the most appropriate option. So there are 3 questions. I am just telling this the correct option here. You can just mark it down. The first one is B, second one is B, and the third one is D. You can just tick mark it. Okay. So that's it for your classwork. The homework I am assigning you today is not much for written. It is just that you have to revise the chapter political parties from the subject civics, and the assignment questions I will be giving you tomorrow for practice. So you have to just study the chapter, basically start reading the chapter first 4 pages, and you can watch video number 1, lecture number 1 if you want to, for like getting to know about the particular chapter. We are starting the revision now, so we are starting going back one by one. So I am taking political parties first. You can revise the chapter political parties from the subject civics. I will assign you few questions tomorrow for practice. So that's it as a homework, nothing much to do. Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. If still you have any queries, you can tell me in school and in the online class also. I am available. So that's it. Thank you so much for listening to this lecture, and please take care of yourself.